Our living national hero and former Prime Minister, His Right Excellency, the Right Honorable Sir Dr. Kennedy A. Simmons, our Director of Sports, Mr. Anthony Wilshire, Mr. Walwyn Shiverton, President of the St. Kitts Nevis Tennis Association. I should also acknowledge the presence of Lady Simmons, Mr. Barry Jacobson and Mrs. Jacobson, Mr. Mills, member of the Association of Persons with Disabilities, other personnel from the Sports Department, invited guests, coaches, students, media personnel, good afternoon to everyone. The Permanent Secretary, Mr. Knight, in his remarks said to us that the Department of Sports has adopted as our policy sports for all, sports for development, and sports for excellence. We within the department recognize that indeed we must provide opportunities for all persons, regardless of their abilities, to be able to partake in different sporting activities. Additionally, when we look at sports for development, we recognize that here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, sports must play an integral part in our own development. Whether it is we want to look at our economic development, our educational development, our health and well-being, or our personal development, sports indeed has a critical role to play. We also embrace sports for excellence, because in terms of becoming an excellent individual, becoming excellence in terms of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, again, sports must play its part. As such, we have been developing the sporting facilities throughout the Federation to ensure that indeed we are able to achieve our goals. It was in 2016, I think, that a young man who I see sitting amongst you approached me and complained about the tennis facilities here at Warner Park. A commitment was given to him then that the sporting facilities here indeed will be repaired, will be refurbished, so that those persons who utilize the facilities will be able to do so under much improved conditions. In December of 2016, the work began in earnest towards the refurbishment of this particular facility. And the Ministry of Finance would have provided us with, I think it was $500,000 to start work here at Warner Park Tennis Facility. Again, last year, we were able to do some additional work. We have also looked at other communities within St. Kitts in particular to build and improve the tennis facilities. However, we recognize as a government that government can only do so much in terms of the provision of facilities and indeed giving support to the various users of the facilities. We do need, however, other partners so that we can truly realize and develop the full potential of our young people. Tennis is one such area that we want to see more young people becoming involved in. I myself, when I attended the University of the Virgin Islands, I was required to take 4 physical education classes in order to graduate. I did taekwondo for 1 semester. Yes, I do know some taekwondo, Mr. Wilshire. So I took taekwondo for 1 semester. I took physical fitness for a next semester, and for the remaining 2 physical education classes, I actually took Introduction to Tennis, which is beginner's tennis, and intermediate tennis. I returned to the Federation, began playing down at the Gardens, but the facilities down there were not in the best of condition. Additionally, I think those who are involved in playing tennis would admit that it is very difficult to find tennis gear, tennis equipment here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. More often than not, you have to procure those particular pieces of equipment from overseas. I say all of that to say to Mr. Jacobson and all of the other persons who would have made donations that indeed we are very thankful for the donation that you have made to the government, but in particular to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. This afternoon you are giving an additional 150 persons the ability to become involved in the sport of tennis. 150 persons who may not be able to find whether it is the tennis balls, the rackets, or the other gears available locally. Now we are able to give more persons tennis rackets and get them involved in playing tennis. For that, indeed, we are grateful, and we do hope that the young persons in particular would take advantage of this donation, and that we would see more persons up here playing tennis, and that apart from the young man who would have said that the tennis court is in need of refurbishment, that we would have quite a number of young persons coming to the ministry and saying to us that rather than the tennis court not being refurbished, that we do not have enough tennis courts in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to accommodate the large number of persons who are now involved in playing tennis. I know how it is when you come to the tennis court and you have the older persons such as Rusty on one court, you have Shefton on the next court, you have Dr. Simmons and Bractus on the next court, and you as young persons sitting down waiting for hours to play a game of tennis. Indeed, that can be a turn-off, and that is a situation that we do not want to continue here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We do have additional capital funding to do some more work here at this facility. The tennis players have been asking for storage space, etc., but we are hoping that we can also refurbish a few more of the courts this year, and as we go along, that we're able to build more and refurbish more. I know that Adrian Rollins is over there looking at me quite intently, and perhaps he's wondering about the tennis courts in Sandy Point, but tomorrow evening there's a meeting in Sandy Point during which there will be a discussion about those tennis courts in Sandy Point that we are working on. Again, I say thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Jacobson. I say thanks to Sir Kennedy for initiating that relationship years ago which we are now reaping the benefits of. I don't think I have to speak to you, the students, about what Sir Kennedy said about getting exercise regularly. Whether it is playing tennis, basketball, football, netball, athletics, whatever it is, get involved in some sort of sporting activity. I think though that while he did not speak to it in particular, the relationship that he spoke about while being Prime Minister, developing that relationship, harnessing that relationship, and how that relationship is now benefiting the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. That also is a lesson for the young people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So whether it is relationships that you are able to build with other persons while involved in playing tennis or other sporting activities, whether it is a relationship that you make with persons during the course of your everyday lives, develop those relationships, because you do not know how in the future those relationships whether will benefit you or will benefit the wider society in general. Again, thank you, and we do hope that the equipment will be put to best use and that this particular donation will not become a one-time donation, but that we can look forward perhaps maybe at the 160th anniversary to 160 more tennis rackets for 160 more young persons. Thank you, sir.